Joining me right now is Chuck Muth. How are you, Chuck?
I'm very good, thank you.
Chuck is the SVP of Sales for Venturing Emerging Brands, the operating unit of Coca-Cola, or an operating unit of Coca-Cola. You were a judge for the New Beverage Showdown this morning.
I was.
We did a little bit of a debrief on stage, but now I have you one-on-one. What do you think of, in just generally the portfolio, I guess, for lack of a better word, of the 15 brands that we saw today? What was most compelling?
We saw some trends. We saw a lot of organic beverages. I was surprised, frankly, by the ginger influence in the presentation. There were at least 3 brands that had ginger in it, so that was unique. There were a bunch of kids' drinks, a bunch of kids' organic drinks, and kids' propositions, so, some definitely trends.
In terms of judging, judging is pretty difficult because, you have these 15 brands that are all passionate about what they're doing. They're all really deeply involved and been working on this for a very long time. And you're basically having to whittle them down to, the 6 finalists. But there are some things that really stood out as to what makes for a successful brand, a brand that's actually going to have that capacity to be a scalable brand, a very, very scalable brand. And that's kind of what we're looking for, right? Is that market opportunity. Was there a unifying thread to the 6 finalists?
As I said, I think the kids' drink, that space is growing very quickly, and a lot of folks are gravitating to that. So the kids' drinks area, health and wellness, definitely playing up that very big. There were a number of shot drinks, that quick and easy, get that drink quick and put it down. And some of them were very strong. We had a couple of strong gingers in there. So, that was, And again, the organic play. There was a lot of organics out there. And you can see that consumers today are gravitating to better health and wellness brands. It's not only consumers, but retailers are paying attention. You're seeing retailers today, it's not just Whole Food anymore. Now you're seeing Kroger, you're seeing Publix, you're seeing Ahold, you're seeing some of these big Wegmans, some of these big retailers, even Walmart talking about health and wellness brands and how they play. So there's opportunity now to get in and get trial and to get into some of these bigger retailers that historically have been hard to get into for small brands. Yeah,
now, you're stepping away from VEB at some point in the near future. But, I think you still are pretty deep into how VEB operates and what they're looking for in new categories and new opportunities. So what's on VEB's radar in terms of some of the categories, the emerging categories that are developing right now?
I think the craft soda business is very interesting for us right now. So we are looking at the craft soda business. Obviously we're already invested in some of the fast-growing categories. Coffee is another one we're still working on. But the coconut water space, the organic space with our Honest brand, the protein space with our Core Power and Fairlife products. So we're clearly focused on categories that are not only emerging but growing very quickly and scalable, to your point earlier.
And you mentioned coffee. You already have a brand in Illissimo. Are you also looking at the cold brew category pretty closely?
We are looking at the cold brew category. You don't have to do anything more than walk around the New York City market right now and see all the variety of cold brew coffees that are out there today. So we know that's a space that is interesting and fast growing and something we want to participate in.
So I asked Irwin Simon, the CEO of Hain Celestial, when he was up here. I asked him, about RTD coffee, and I said, is Hain thinking about getting into that category? And he said we've looked hard at it, but it's something where we invest in brands that we feel like we can really add a lot of value. And he said, we really don't see where we can add a lot of value in RTD coffee. In VEB's case, you invest in and incubate in brands where you can add value. But how do you do it specifically? What's VEB's process of taking a brand from one place and making it something else?
Yeah, okay. So we do operate a little different at VEB than the rest of the Coca-Cola company. Sure. First of all, we don't really invest directly in brands until they get to a certain size. The smaller brands, we do have accelerators that we invest in. We let them nurture and work directly with those brands to scale them up. When they get to a certain size, they're getting up to the $30 or $40 million range. In some cases, we will invest in those brands, and in some other cases, we will actually buy the brands. So once we buy the brands, then it's a matter of scaling it up, and many times in the Coca-Cola system. And that's where my role comes in. I lead their sales organization. We operate very different from the normal Coke world in that we actually set up literally business units around the country. So even our region managers are their own business. They own the business. They have the empowerment to make decisions. They have the resource to make decisions. They have the budgets to make decisions. and at the end we have very tight metrics and we hold them accountable for results. That creates a culture where you have a high energy, like an entrepreneurial culture, you have a very high energy, high performing culture, and it's really helped us scale up brands like Honest and Zico and some of the other brands that we've managed.
And some other brands, including Suja. How is Suja doing since the Coke investment?
Well, I'm not directly involved in Suja,
okay.
But Suja is a refrigerated product going through our Minute Maid organization, but everything I've heard is just an amazing tasting product, and it's doing very, very well.
So, in terms of the BevNet Live experience, I mean, you've been here a few different times. You've been a judge in the New Beverage Showdown a few different times. The entrepreneurs that you're meeting, and I'm sure you're talking to a lot of them who want to get your opinion and want to get your advice. What is the one or two things that they really need to succeed in this industry?
I think a dose of reality. I mean, I think a lot of them want to scale very quickly, or they want to target a broader audience. I think for me, I would keep it small, learn from your mistakes in a small scale, focus on who your consumer is, go after that consumer. Don't try and be more things than you can be. Don't expand your brand portfolio very quickly. I mean, I talked to a few people today, and they were like trying to brand up and add more flavors, and I'm like, yeah, let's just, I would just calm it down, work with 3 or 4 flavors, get that right, and then you can look at additional flavors down the road.
Earlier you mentioned craft soda, which is pretty interesting for me, and I know you said VEB, excuse me, VEB operates very, very differently than the rest of the Coca-Cola company, but still you're selling a soda that might not really take any kind of dent, not even a nibble on what Coke is actually doing. But it's still interesting that Coke is willing to hear an idea about craft soda, and soda at all, other than what they already sell. So, I mean, what's that been like? I mean, why craft soda? What's the interest there?
Well, VEB's mandate is to get in the growth space. I mean, so VEB represented over 30% of Coke's North America's growth last year. So we are small brands, but I always say if you look over to the third column, not the actual or prior year, but the change column, we rank very high. So our brands are actually growing very, very quickly. So we're a growth component of the Coke company. Our mandate is to look at growth space, growth categories, and growth brands, and nurture them, even though they're small. I mean, if craft soda is a growth area, which we believe it will be, then we want to participate, and we want to grow.
And you think there can be a craft soda brand that's the next billion-dollar brand, which is also part of VEB's mandate, is to find and nurture the next billion-dollar brands for Coke.
Yeah, I think that's a lofty goal. I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong, but I certainly think Coke would be very happy with $200 million brands and $300 million. We had enough of those, yeah.
I think anyone would be happy with a $200 million brand, for sure. One other question, this is the last question I wanted to ask you, is, at this point, I think last year, or about 6 months ago, I talked to Rebecca Messina, who has since moved on to Beam, and she's now the CMO of Beam, which is a pretty amazing position for her. And she used to run the marketing department at VEB. And she had mentioned dairy alternative, and as dairy alternative as being something that VEB was looking at. Has your opinion of the space evolved at this point? I mean, what do you think of nut milks and those kinds of products?
Well, I mean, I'm not aware of that, by the way, but I will say that the dairy alternative space is an interesting space. But if you go into some of these groceries today, there's more dairy alternatives than are dairy products in some cases. So I do think if there's a beverage space that's available, non-alcoholic beverage space that's available, we're going to look at it, and if we think we can scale it up and participate aggressively there or fundamentally there, we'll do that. So not ruling it out. At this point, I don't know whether we're doing it or not.
Okay, Chuck. This has been really great, and it really makes me happy that you're here because you're such a great judge and you're such a great source of information, and hope to see you again really soon.
Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks so much.